Okay. I keep talking about the audit and stuff. So again, for those of you that don't know, I monitor clinical trials. I am what you call a clinical trial monitor or a clinical research associate. That means that when sites are involved in clinical research, they could be studying anything. They could be studying cancer, they could be doing cancer studies, they could be looking at Crohn's disease, diabetes, heart disease, any disease that you could think of. There's probably a clinical trial that is being tested somewhere in the United States, Canada, and Europe to find an experimental procedure or an experimental device or an experimental drug to treat or address the symptoms or cause or the disease itself. So what I do is I go to different sites in the United States, sometimes in Canada, where they are performing these clinical trials. The clinical trials that I work on are specific right now to something called alopecia areata. So that is an autoimmune disorder where your body attacks your hair follicles and you lose your hair. There are a couple people, I think Jada Pinkett Smith actually talked about her experiencing something like this. There are several different forms of alopecia. I've talked about it on my channel I think once before, and there are different types of hair loss. With alopecia areata, that type of hair loss is something that is not necessarily genetic. It can be brought on by stress, or it could just be brought on by, again, your body, your cells attacking themselves, and it manifests itself in the follicles that produce hair. So people with alopecia areata, they suffer some degree of hair loss when it comes to hair on the body. If they have hair on their body, their arms, their legs, their eyebrows, their eyelashes, the hair on their head. So a lot of people with alopecia areata do wear wigs. Some people do not, but it is the type of thing that makes people very self-conscious, especially if you are a younger person and your looks are important to you. And I can only imagine how someone like that would feel, because I know when I was experiencing hair loss after being sick, it was a very sensitive subject, a very sensitive spot for me. So it's interesting that like well into my career as a clinical research associate, I am now working on something like alopecia areata because I am a natural hair content creator. So that's the interesting thing. In the beginning of my career, I was very heavily focused on heart disease. I did a lot of metabolic disorders, and I had the opportunity to work in neuroscience for several years. And my main focus prior to the company that I'm working for now, I was actually working on major depressive disorder, or MDD. And some of the things that I have been blessed to work on, or some of the compounds I've been blessed to work on, have actually made it to market. I will list them in the description box. So if you want to see stuff that I've worked on where you've probably seen them, in commercials, they'll be in the description box. But I love what I do. It's very exciting, and there's different stuff day to day. A little weird to kind of talk about the products that I have worked on or things that have made it to market a little bit for me, because I normally really don't talk about stuff like this. If you want me to go in depth a little bit more on the drugs I've worked on that have made it to market and what they do, by all means, I will do that in another video. I actually want to do a video where I talk about the clinical research process, because I know some of you have asked me that outside of YouTube. Some of you that are on Instagram have asked me about that. So there is going to be a vlog this month talking about that, like the whole clinical research process, how it is structured and what happens. Also, this would tie into why COVID is such a big deal. And I just want to put this out there really quickly. So COVID really does exist. People ask me this all the time when I travel, like if they find out what I do when I'm on the plane or I'm in the airport waiting, or if I'm in the Uber or Lyft, I get that question a lot. Do I think that COVID is real? Yes, COVID is real. And honestly, the whole issue with vaccinations, you guys, here's what I'm going to say on this. Getting vaccinated is your choice. I know that there are a lot of mandates and things going on, but we are in a global pandemic. There is something that is killing a lot of people, whether you choose to believe it's real or not. The healthcare workers and healthcare providers and home healthcare providers that are seeing this every single day, they know it's real. And it is it was brutal, it still is brutal, it's still out there, even though we've become desensitized to it because we were hearing about it every single day, over and over and over and over. A lot of us just have built up a resistance to hearing about it and to realizing how serious it is. And that is normal. That's a human response because after a while, you do get desensitized to things. But what I will say when it comes to the vaccine is it really is starting to make me very upset when I see people talking about the fact that the vaccine is a waste of time, or the fact that the vaccine is a hoax or a ploy to get people to conform or to do things. In science, there's a lot of trial and error. And right now with COVID, the quickness with which it is spreading, the quickness with which it's mutating, that's a real thing. Just because you haven't seen it before happening and unfolding in real time on a global scale like this does not mean it doesn't exist. And, you know, it really makes me upset when I see people talking about how the vaccine is trash, because honestly, it's the scientific process at work. Is it the very best thing that we have? No. Was I someone who wasn't gung-ho to take it? Yes, I was, because I knew it is experimental. But for some people, there are families I know right now who wished that their loved ones had taken the vaccine for just even the possibility that they might still be here today. There are people I know who have lost their lives, or family members of people I know who have lost their lives due to COVID, and their family members are, you know, have expressed that they wish that there was a vaccine available at the time when they got sick. And there are people that I know who have lost family members to COVID who have expressed that they wished that their family members had gotten the vaccine when it was available, just because if they had gotten it, there might have been just the smallest chance, even if there was just the smallest chance that they might still be alive, they would give anything to have that. So, yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. It is your choice to get vaccinated. I firmly believe that we should not force anybody to get vaccinated. I understand from the clinical research perspective why we have introduced mandates. What I will say to you is that wearing a mask and social distancing, especially from people that you do not know, that you do not spend a lot of time with, and you don't know who they've been around, wearing a mask is still vitally important, because before we had the vaccine, wearing the mask was the thing that was keeping us safe and protected. So wearing a mask is still very important. Socially distancing yourself when you're out in public is still very important until we get all these variants and everything under control. It's not a game, it's not a hoax, and I know we're tired of hearing about it, but it really does hurt my heart now when I hear people bashing the vaccine, because it's the best that we have, and we know it's not perfect, but it's what we have right now to give people the smallest chance at some hope of surviving if they were to get COVID, because some people get COVID and they don't get sick, and some people are not that lucky. Some people get COVID and they're very sick, and the vaccine right now, even though it's still developing, it is the thing that we have that gives people just the slightest bit of hope. So that's all I'm going to say on that. I didn't want to make this too somber or too long. But yeah, those are my thoughts on it. All right, so this lip mask has like soaked into my lips pretty much. My lips feel and look a lot better. And I'm gonna start working on my skin, because the way I was eating over the holidays like trash is clearly showing up in my skin right now. Thank you guys so much for watching these vlogs. I hope that you have been enjoying them. If you do like them, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to share my channel with a friend. And you could also follow me on Instagram at TextureLove16, and also on Pinterest at TextureLoveHair. So you guys, I'm gonna go take a shower and get ready to go to bed. Thank you all so much for watching this vlog, and I'm gonna see you in my next one. Good night.